and we're back with another episode of Seth's Solo Side Quest. I'm Seth from the Lonely Stoner podcast, and this is episode 11 of the Seth Solo Side Quest. And today's episode, we're going to talk about a few different things, as we always do. We'll probably talk about Saturday night's main event, WWE event that happened last night. But when this comes out, this would be, a while after the event. But this, when I'm recording this, came out just last night. Of course, we had a PFL / Bellator event where we had Usman, Nurmagomedov and Paul Hughes main event, and Vadim Nemkov in the co-main. So yeah, well, let's get straight into it. Okay, let's talk about the Vadim Nemkov fight, because that'll be quick to talk about. So Vadim Nemkov faces Tim Johnson. Tim Johnson's just an old, fat, former UFC heavyweight. He didn't really do much in the UFC, left the UFC, and didn't really do much in Bellator. If he was in the UFC today, he'd be unranked. He's ranked in a company like PFL or Bellator because they've literally got no heavyweights. But Vadim Nemkov stops him in the first round with a submission. I think cuts him open as well. A really good performance from Vadim Nemkov, but this is what I'm used to from Vadim Nemkov. He's now 18-2, 18-2-1 with one no contest. He's fighting now at heavyweight, but he's the former Bellator light heavyweight champion. He's got quite a resume as well, like a serious resume. Been fighting for a while now. Yeah, he's no rookie. Like, he's been fighting for over 10 years now. But I look at some of these wins. I see Liam McGeary, Phil Davis, Rafael Carvalho, Ryan Bader, rematch Phil Davis, Corey Anderson, Yoel Romero, and then of course just now beating Tim Johnson. He's got, in terms of guys at the heavier weight classes outside of the UFC, Vadim Nemkov is right up there. 6 foot, fought a heavyweight at 239 pounds, not a small heavyweight, in good shape as well. I mean, you could see him when he was in the cage with Tim Johnson. Tim Johnson just like a fat dad bod slob. Even like, it was not a good look. It was not a good look for Tim Johnson, and he got his ass handed to him, rightfully so, in a dominant first round submission, rear naked choke. I mean, I don't know what's next for Vadim Nemkov here. I guess the biggest fight would be maybe a Francis fight. Francis would probably sleep him, but Vadim Nemkov, that's probably the biggest fight in the heavyweight classes that PFL can do. But I don't know if they'll want to do that, because Vadim Nemkov could quite easily out-grapple Francis if he wanted to. But Francis grappling has been improving, to be fair. And Vadim will be the smaller guy. And Vadim's not really known for his submissions. No, he is. No, he is known for his submissions. Just not as much as his knockouts, because he's had some TKO wins, a lot of decision wins, to be fair. Decision against Corey Anderson, decision against Yoel Romero, but that happens. Yoel Romero doesn't really get stopped, he just goes to decisions. Finished Ryan Bader, TKO'd Liam McGeary. Who else? Split decision Phil Davis, rematched Phil Davis, won a decision, unanimous. Corey Anderson decision. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of decisions there, and the thing is, at heavyweight, going to a decision with Francis is not a good. Your chances aren't good. Because if that's your only method to win, he's probably going to catch you and knock you out. But he has got some submissions in there as well, and he could out-grapple him. Everyone's the same height on the floor. Francis would be bigger standing up, but get his ass on his back. Pause. No, did he? He's got submission wins. Vadim Nemkov's got submission wins over Tim Johnson, rear naked choke, obviously. His last fight, Bruno Capoloza, arm triangle choke. He beat a guy called Julius Anglicus with a Kimura. Rear naked choke against Rafael Carvalho, sorry. And then started his career with a lot of TKOs. But he's got a submission game there too. Vadim Nemkov is no joke, and PFL they've got the guy that lost to Francis Ngannou, so maybe Nemkov will fight him next, and then if he fights Francis for the PFL heavyweight championship, then I'm assuming Francis is the PFL heavyweight champion. Let's check that quickly. PFL champ heavyweight. Let's see. Okay. Have you got the rankings? I don't really need the rankings, but heavyweight. Okay, show me the what do you call it? The tournament thing. I'm not trying to see all that though. Yeah, because they don't have like champions, do they? They have tournaments, but hey ho, they've been going for a few years. PFL 2018, 2019, 2021, 22, 23, 24 season. Crazy that they might go out of business because they're hemorrhaging money, but game is game. Game is game. But yeah, Vadim Nemkov, big win. Well, not really that big of a win. Tim Johnson's a bit of a bum, but beats Tim Johnson in the first round. Stopping Tim Johnson in the first round, not by knockout, and you submitted him is a bit of an achievement. In terms of heavyweights outside of the UFC, he's probably one of the more known guys. Obviously, nowhere near as known as like a Francis. He's not a superstar like Francis, but you guys know what I mean when I say. But good win for Vadim Nemkov. Now we go on to the main event where the Bellator Lightweight Championship was on the line with Usman Nurmagomedov v Paul Hughes. Excuse me. And this was a really close fight. I remember watching this, I'm thinking, when I first watched it and I was scoring it, I scored it as a draw, to be honest. I scored it as a draw because you had, Usman did have a point taken away. And I don't think any round that was won in that fight was won by more than a 10-9. So, okay, this is how I scored it. I gave Paul Hughes the first round. I gave Paul Hughes the second round. I gave Umar the third round. Gave Umar the fourth round. And probably gave Umar the fifth round as well. But you take away a point for the low blow, that's 4-4. So, for me, it would have been a draw. And I think one of the judges did score it a draw. That's why it was a majority decision. But I guess it kind of depends how you scored it. I think the scoring that came out was 48-46 or something, assuming that they gave Umar all 4 rounds, which for me is a bit crazy because the first round in particular, Paul Hughes was a lot more active. First 2 rounds, Paul Hughes was a lot more active, even though Umar, he wasn't getting dominated at all. It was competitive, it was close. Even the rounds that Paul Hughes won, they could have easily gone to Usman. I might have called him Umar. I might call him Umar throughout this. I mean Usman Nurmagomedov. But yeah, a lot of those early rounds, they were close. I gave them to Paul Hughes, but another judge gave them to Usman. It's fair enough. But I think Usman sort of said after the fight he underestimated Paul Hughes a bit and sort of gave him his flowers after, say that it was a tough fight, like a lot closer than he thought it'd be, because Paul Hughes is no joke. Like, he got a massive win against AJ McKee. Like, AJ McKee is one of the best fighters at featherweight and lightweight outside of the UFC. He was streaking for a long time in Bellator. I remember Bellator had been building him up for years now. So, to beat AJ McKee, no small feat. Paul Hughes is the real deal. Unfortunately, it was a loss for Paul Hughes, but I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to run this back because the arena in Dubai looked pretty full. I'm sure this event may have been financially good for PFL, Bellator. So wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to run that fight back. And I think it'd be competitive. I probably would lean towards Usman again in a rematch, to be fair. But again, it's a gimme fight in a lot of ways. It's the type of fight where if Paul Hughes went out and won a decision, I wouldn't have been surprised. If that fight ended in a draw, I wouldn't have been surprised. But the fight ended in Usman winning, and again, I wasn't surprised. It was a close fight, competitive fight, and I'm seeing guys saying that this is probably the best PFL fight ever. I don't watch PFL, so I couldn't tell you about some random card that happened in 2018, this prelim fight that was just a war. I couldn't tell you about it. I couldn't. Like, the only PFL events I've watched since it became PFL was probably like Francis fight and then the highlights from the champion event this year and then this fight. That's literally it. Like, before that, I'd watched a bit of World Series of Fighting. I liked World Series of Fighting when they had guys like Rumble in it for a bit, and Justin Gaethje was kind of the face of that organisation. It was fun then, and they had David Branch at middleweight. It was a good little organisation for what it was, and obviously got taken over and now became PFL. But for guys saying that this is the best PFL fight ever, I hear it, because it's the best PFL fight I've ever seen. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that for free. That's the best PFL fight I've ever seen. And with that, Usman remains Bellator lightweight champion. Another title defense, and Usman's got a number of good title defenses now. Add Paul Hughes to it, Benson Henderson to it as well. I mean, to be fair, PFL and Bellator don't have a super deep lightweight division, but game is game. At the end of the day, Usman can only beat what's in front of him, and that's what he's done. He's 18-0 or 19-0 now. He's building himself a nice little career, so when the time's right and he wants to come to the UFC, he's maybe having one fight, then walking straight into a title shot. That was the PC. He's having one fight and walking straight into a title shot, which is good going. Doesn't happen often. Happened with Kaya Sakurov, walked straight into a title shot, but that was at flyweight. It's a bit different. The division's already been ran through by Pantoja for the most part. And to be fair, it's kind of happening with Islam at lightweight, but obviously, obviously, Islam and Usman aren't going to fight at lightweight. They're not going to fight each other, which is why they're at different organisations at the moment. But if Islam wants to go up to welterweight, which he easily could, but he doesn't want to fight Bilal or Shavkat, which I don't really get, because they're not teammates, but I guess they're Muslim brothers, don't really want to fight each other. But game is game, I guess. I mean, to me, game is game. It's business at the end of the day. But yeah, that's the situation there. If Islam leaves lightweight, or if he retires, because Islam's not young. I think Islam, he's probably like 34 now, and this is a young man's sport. You've got a couple more years, and then Usman's coming in, and seeing what goes on in the UFC. I mean, in terms of skill set, Usman's probably, it's hard, because from what we see, Usman is a better striker, but he's facing lower caliber guys. So Usman's not facing Charles Oliveira. He's not facing Justin Gaethje. He's not facing Dustin Poirier. Like, pretty guys who are striking at the highest level. Usman's not facing guys like this. He's facing guys that were past their prime 10 years ago in Benson Henderson. Benson Henderson's been finished, bro. Been absolutely cooked. By the time he left the UFC, he was done. He fought Michael Chandler, lost. Fought a couple guys in Bellator, lost. I don't know if he won any fights. Maybe he might have won some fights against some bums, but anyone halfway respectable, anyone with halfway a name, Benson Henderson's losing to. He lost to Usman. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. I wonder how much longer Usman will be in Bellator for. I assume as long as Islam is still fighting and still active in the lightweight division, it just makes sense for Usman to stay in Bellator. And these Russian guys, these Muslim guys, they're not spending any money, so they're getting paid regardless. So even if they're getting paid, $100 grand, $150 grand for this fight, he's saving most of that. It's not like the Americans or the Western fighters where, yeah, you get paid $100 grand, but 20% goes to manager, 20% goes on agent, 20% goes to taxes, and then before you know it, you've not got any money left to live on. These guys all live in like some Dagestani farm inbreeding and just keep doing their thing like that. But yeah, like I said, Usman, a very interesting talent, good grappler, got some takedowns against Paul Hughes. Did get a number of takedowns. Didn't do tons with it once he got them, but you do a takedown in the fight. It's a scoring action. That helps. Well, come to the decision, that will help you. But yeah, interesting fight, close fight, and I'll be interested to see if they run it back. But Usman retains, and Usman's still the Bellator lightweight champion. And next we'll go on to the WWE Saturday Night main event, and they had a couple good matches on this event. It was a pretty good event. It was available on YouTube after it happened. It was live on NBC, I think they said. But overall, it was a pretty good show for what it was. To be fair, I'm not a huge fan of these shows because nothing major really happens on them. We can talk about some of the big things that happened in this event, but they're not that huge. They're just things that could have happened on Raw, to be honest. Things that would have happened on like a great Raw episode. Or a good Raw episode, rather. Not things that should be given like their own separate event or their own not premium live event, because it's not that, and they're not even trying to sell it as that. But the first one, they certainly tried to sell it as that a bit. They did for the first one for sure, and they kind of learned their lesson and know that we need to manage expectations here, because this is not going to be an amazing show where loads of new things happen, loads of not life changing, but title changes happen and stuff like that. But we'll go on to it. But I even said on X that if you want to get people to keep watching these shows, you need to have something special happen. There has to be more unpredictability. The main event, well, let's talk about it straight away. Main event, Gunther v Jey Uso. Have Jey Uso win, bro. Have Jey Uso win. He doesn't have to hold the belt for a year. Just have Jey Uso win. Make it a huge moment, because the crowd were into it. There was a moment when Jey Uso did probably the worst spear I've ever seen, and then got on top, did a frog splash. Like, if he won at that moment, that would be like one of the best moments in WWE history. If Jey Uso won, like, I can call him Jey Uso. Jey Uso won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at Saturday Night Main Event. 1, 2, 3 beats Gunther, but they had a good match. Had a very good match. Not too long. Pretty short. Not pretty short, but again, same thing with these title defenses. We don't need to have these super long matches. And WWE have started to kind of learn the lesson from that, where during the NXT days when it was basically a super indie, you could give these spot monkeys the main event, 40-minute main event, go out and have a great time. Like, no, bro. You don't need to be seeing 40-minute main events. 15 minutes is fine. If you've got good guys that are coming into the match with a story to tell and that are able to pull off good moves in the ring, a 15-minute long match is fine, right? But yeah, Jey Uso lost that match. Gunther retained his championship once again in a pretty good match for what it was, to be fair. Both guys had their moments. We even had that moment when Jey Uso was close to winning, but in reality that was never going to happen. But hey ho, water off a duck's back, as they say. But yeah, would have loved to see Jey Uso win that. I think Jey Uso's still got a lot of momentum. He's still super over, which is good for him, obviously. It's good to be over, but it's gonna die out. If you can't pull the trigger, you can only be a nearly man for so long. Do you know what I mean? Look at Dolph Ziggler. You can only be a nearly man for so long. You can be a nearly man for a few years max, and then guys are just like, yeah, we know you're never doing anything, so what's the point? And it's sad to see, because, I mean, back in the day, Dolph Ziggler was one of my favourite wrestlers, because he could go out and put a great match with damn near anyone. But it gets to a point around 2014, 2015, 2016, you're like, if you don't put the strap on this guy now, you're never going to do it. And they didn't. And then then we just stopped caring. To be fair, he had a good run when he went down to NXT, but we'll talk about that another time probably, because yeah, that's not for now. What else happened on Saturday Night Main Event? Okay, well, this is probably the best thing that happened on Saturday Night Main Event was Jacob Fatu and the Braun Strowman match. Now, I love the way they booked this. Where they had it as a DQ finish, so neither guy got pinned. It was pretty even. Both guys are big, powerful guys. They're gonna have their big power moves. They're gonna slam into things, slam into each other, slam each other. It was really fun to see. It's my type of wrestling. I like seeing these big guys fight where you're like, damn, bro, like, whatever this guy does, it's gonna hurt. Two of those guys in the ring together, you've got me watching. And Braun Strowman won via DQ as Jacob Fatu attacked the referee and then got himself disqualified. But then after that, Jacob Fatu beats up Braun Strowman, leaves him bloodied, gives him 3 or 4 moonsaults. Obviously, the moonsault is nowhere near as devastating as Bronson Reed's Tsunami. That's an insane move that I love to see. But obviously, Jacob Fatu can't do the Tsunami. That's Bronson Reed's move, so he does the moonsault. And that was a really good moment there. Done that 3 or 4 times. Tama Tonga had to come and break it up. Braun Strowman was bleeding. They had to get the doctors in, the quote-unquote doctors. They had to get them in. Dragged him out of the ring. It was really good. That was really well booked. And I'm really interested to see what happens with Jacob Fatu next, because he just has to leave Solo. Solo just gets used and abused at this point. Just loses so many matches because he was put into a feud with Cody Rhodes and Roman where you knew he was never winning. You know, when Solo Sikoa gets put in a match with Cody Rhodes, he's not winning. So what's the point in watching? We know Cody Rhodes is going to win. If it's a match on a random SmackDown where there's no stakes, no championship on the line, Solo might get a dirty win, maybe. But come pay-per-view, come premium live event, when they're in the main event in a steel cage, Solo's not winning no world title from Cody Rhodes, bro. He probably should. And why would he do that? He would do that to make the storyline more interesting. That alone is a good enough reason to change the championship on someone. It's not Cody's won it, he has to hold it for a year now. No. We're in a storyline which is kind of losing steam, but we need it to carry on. Let's change the belts. Because that'll get people's attention back. Holy, what? Solo Sikoa's just won the World Championship. What the hell? But WWE don't want me on the creative team, man. They don't want me there. They should, but they don't want me there. But yeah, that's probably it from me. It's been Seth from the Lone Solo Podcast. This is an episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest, episode 11. We talked about the PFL event, Usman Nurmagomedov winning, Vadim Nemkov winning. Talked about Saturday Night Main Event, Gunther winning, and then Jacob Fatu attacking Braun Strowman after the match. But yeah, that's it from me. Episode 11 of Seth Solo Side Quest, and I'm out. Peace.